as well on my social media platforms. Karibu sana yet again. This time around, we're looking at the societal understanding of humanitarian principles. These, if you think about it, are the code of principles that those in the humanitarian space literally must operate around, because it's about integrity when helping those in need. Because at the end of the day, the respect for human life, despite one's desperation and their suffering, is really important, right? We've all seen what's happening in the country, and so we thought this is a very timely conversation to have. There's someone somewhere that perhaps you have come across who has been affected by these floods. Unfortunately, we've had cases of life being lost, and so we just want to tackle this and inspire you this morning to leave your mark. Who better yet to have this conversation with than Reverend John Mark? He is, by the way, a friend to the show. He's from the Anglican Church of Kenya. Karibu sana, Reverend.
Thank you, Shiko.
Good to have you, and I wish that we were meeting, you know, when there were better circumstances.
Well, it's always a joy to be here, but I know today the situation is not so good.
Yeah.
It's not so good.
Right,
but
right.
We are here, we are in Kenya, we need to make sure we deal with it. And our prayer is that we must do the best we can. It's scary and sad, but also it's more of, let me not use the word heart-wrenching, because it keeps you awake enough because you're human.
Yeah.
Because we have floods across the country, and I've been to some places that is crazy. I've seen video clips of places that have been flattened. Because of my office, I work with pastors across the whole country. Right. And people would send you videos of water reaching them here. Oh my God. And trying to get out to the nearest school where they could stay. And they go in there and they thought they were the first to arrive, and they find about 2,000-3,000 people already there. And there is no food. They don't even talk about sanitation. They're talking about even a place to sleep. There is nowhere. And then now the walls of that building comes down, double tragedy, because of the water, because most of them are semi-permanent. Yeah. Now they have to move again. And it becomes worse in places like in the urban centers where some people live by the riverside. Right. And so the water comes in and sweeps them. And then now double tragedy, where sometimes some of the places, because of this no we don't have drainage. Yeah. Now the government comes and tells them, please move up, and their homes are demolished. So you're wondering, this guy was already lost everything. Yeah. Second tragedy, and you ask them to move up, but to where? Right. Because wherever they are going, there are people. Wherever they are going, there are no places where people can actually come in and stay. Now schools have opened. Yeah. So the places some of them were staying were in schools. It's true. I've seen those clips where people are saying, we're not moving. We're not moving. We're not moving. Yeah. We're not moving because this was the only place. Right. And that's where now some part of the church comes in, and we offer help in many ways. Well, one is helping move people. Right. So that at least they go to a safer place. And some of our churches are venues where their people are going. But the other part is also trying to provide food. Right. Because when those people come in, you escape with what you have, and that's just your life. It's true. So don't even think about clothes. Clothes you can get. And now we're also appealing for people to help us get clothing so that people can have blankets. So anybody who's got things you're not using. Right. Well, some you may be using, but you really don't need. That's true. Because you might find that someone has got 50 different suits. Yeah. And you only need maybe 10 or even less. Right. So some just pass over to someone who really needs. And at this point, we're not asking you to give us your worst or best. Just bring what you have. I know. And it's that dire. I mean, it's so, you know, just shocking. I mean, you could either have been displaced because of post-election violence. Right. And then those people didn't think that would ever happen to them. Then floods come. And then now you're displaced because of a natural disaster. So it's that ugly. Yes. And you talk about post-election, but I have my own personal experience. Yeah. During 2008 to 07 to 08, I know that. I lived in Limuru. I had to get out of Limuru. Yeah. So, and I had to go back to help evacuate people. So I know how unsettling that becomes. Yeah. But now this is a case where that happened. Then where you landed, the rains come for you. And where you move on to, the school tells you get out, and you're wondering, do I belong to this country? I know. It's like nobody. In fact, that's the time you're almost thinking, I think even God and the government and everybody's are out to get me. Yeah. And I'm on my own now. Yeah, yeah. And part of what we're also trying to do, I've got friends, counselors who we're trying to use to go to some of those families where here's a case where you're the only survivor. Your wife and the children all went.
Oh,
you
no.
can't trace them. The water went with them. The bodies can't be found. So you are praying and hoping they're alive.
Yeah.
But from the experience of what happened, you are guaranteed you know they are not alive.
All right.
Now, because of the grieving processes, a lot of them are in denial. So we send counselors to help.
Yeah.
And when counselors get there, some actually need more debriefing
Yeah.
when they start, because you hope to talk to someone and you're the one who needs talking to.
It's true.
So the people you went to talk to are the ones saying, it's okay, we've gone through this.
All right.
Just, hold on there for us as you hold on for you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we are not in a very, very good position.
Well, now that we're trying to borrow a leaf from the bodies that handle humanitarian aid, there's something, if perhaps you haven't heard of, known as humanitarian principles. It's kind of like a code of conduct that people who are within this space must operate by, because it's about integrity.
Right.
As you know, you're really trying to save human life.
Yeah.
And for you, Rev, I just wanted to get what your personal understanding is of these 5 principles. Let me read them out. Number 1 is humanity.
Yeah.
The second one is impartiality. The third is independence, and then there's neutrality.
Yeah.
So let's start with humanity and what that actually means to you. Because when we say, okay, we're going to go out there, we're going to help people victims of these floods, why is it important that we're practicing humanity?
You see, because one, as humans, we are supposed to take care of each other.
Yeah.
Now, when you go out to help take care of the other, then you must be human. So your humanness is considered, so that I don't come in and see you as an it.
Yeah.
I see you as a whole human being with all his senses working and who just needs a helping hand.
Right.
So I must put in the humanness of me in reaching out to you, so that I don't treat you like an it. There are people who will do that because, well, I don't really have to do it, but because you asked, let me just do it.
Yeah.
Okay? Or someone comes in and sees you as a thing that I'm helping. That has removed the humanity out of the process.
Yeah.
So that when we ask Kenyans to support, you're doing it because tomorrow it could be you.
Yeah.
And you'd want to be treated with dignity. You'd want to be treated with respect. You'd want to be treated with, like, let me give you a simple illustration. If you're crossing the road and a lady falls down and her clothes fall over her head.
Yeah.
Now, today there are 2 things people would do. Others would come down to help, get a stand up. Others will take pictures and post and say, hey,
this happened.
Falling down manenos.
Yeah.
Now, so the first one is human.
Right.
The second one is not.
Yeah.
Simply because you want to be the first to, like CNN would say, want to be the first to, that's not helping.
Yeah.
You're actually behaving more of like an animal than a human. In fact, a dog might reach out and help more faster by protecting the person. So we need to put in the human face when we are doing that. Now, the second one you talked about is impartiality.
Yeah.
It needs to be without discrimination.
Okay.
I need to treat you, we're living in a generation where gender issues are key.
All right.
And you talk about women's rights and gender and gender and gender. But now, if you find people drowning, the question is, who would you pick first?
I know. That's a tough one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So some people would say, look for the stronger one, leave those ones first. Pick the most weakest. But the problem is, even the stronger one needs to be saved.
Yeah.
So impartiality means don't discriminate. Do not go against them because of.
Yeah.
It can't be tribal. It can't be nepotic. It can't be, you just make sure that you give everyone an opportunity to actually survive and survive with dignity.
Right.
Give them an opportunity to feel it's worth the effort you've done. And so when you go through that, you're actually saying, walk with me, I walk with you.
Right.
I'm human, you're human. Today is me, tomorrow is you.
Yeah.
Independence, I think, brings in the idea that it does not have to be manipulated by someone else.
Right.
And with politics sometimes, we can say, let's support our people and leave the others. And the truth is, as a country and for me as a Christian, I don't look at you based on your tribe. I shouldn't look at you based on your religion. I shouldn't look at you based on your tribe. I shouldn't look at you based on even your clan. I should see you as a whole human being. And my willing to support should not be based on someone remote controlling and saying, hey, Mark, those are not our people.
Right, at channel now.
Yeah. Channel, those ones, let's do something. And the independence also goes into beyond just the organizations that support. It also factors in the degree to which we engage.
Right.
Because if we don't do that, then it means we basically can discriminate. And we've seen that in parts of the world where you hear that a community has been profiled and discriminated against, not because they wanted to, but because they are said they are, them and us.
Yeah.
And we know what happened in Rwanda in 1994. And the issue was just two different tribes.
Yeah.
And someone said this, so don't do it.
Right.
And so independence for us is make your judgment based on the situation on the ground. And that's where the last one comes in on neutrality. Be neutral.
Right.
Don't side with people. Do not, do not discriminate because of this or the other.
Right.
So when you talk about humanitarian aid and humanitarian assistance, you are actually saying put a human face to what you're doing, and let the person go in with dignity. Give them an opportunity to feel, I'm desperate, but not too desperate. Desperate because I need your support, but I'm not too desperate to be discriminated against. So walk with me that I may feel proud to be walking again.
And don't you feel for someone who's also in this space whereby you work a lot with those who are in need, it becomes kind of hard to penetrate because of people not practicing those principles. So you as Reverend John Mark in the church, you want to go to place X, but because of whatever is going on, internal politics, you're not able to penetrate.
Yes, it happens a lot. And why it happens, and that's where these principles help. Yeah. Because you can want to go to a place and the people helping lead you there tell you, I think the situation here is worse than this. And then when you ask later, you're told that those are not, didn't support him during elections. Those people did not do 1, 2, 3. So, and those are sometimes within the church. Yes, that is so sad. And working with such groups of people sometimes makes delivery of services harder because then you don't know how to judge every decision and advice you're given because it could have some things behind it. And so what we then do is that's why we tend to work with committees. That's why church basically works a lot with committees. Right. In the hope that in the committee there are more open-minded and objective minds who would be able to say, okay, this is the situation. Right. How can we help? And everybody brings in their idea, and then we say, okay, which is a priority? Can we start here? Can we go to the next? Can we go to the next? Correct. So that we don't judge people based on a list of other things that we do. Yeah. But it is a very painful thing that it happens, and not just in church. I mean, religion becomes a key area of judgment, tribe, race, even nationality. There are parts, I've been to places like Dadaab and Kakuma, and the place is divided into nations. That's Ethiopia, that's Rwanda, that's Uganda. You stick with your people, you people, So if there's floods in Uganda, they'll say, that's in Uganda. As Ethiopians, we are fine. We're fine. And Kenyans is like, they came to our country. So you guys also mujipange. You know, this next point will really, really call each and every one of us out because when there's a disaster, there are those who unfortunately gain. Yes. And I really want to talk about the kind of vices that seem to creep up when people are in need. I think we saw the biggest atrocity, if you ask me, during COVID-19. Yes. It was madness. Yes. Okay? Because we have billionaires here today because of COVID. Yes, very true. And not in a good way. You're just standing around selling oxygen tanks and oh my God, suddenly you have orders through the roof. This is manipulation. Yes. This is lies. Yes. This is overquoting and everything that in between. They're called hyenas of the battlefield. Oh, hyenas. Oh, that's what they're called. Okay. Because hyena thrives where the dead bodies are. So the more dead bodies they have. Scavengers. Yes. Yeah. So they come in and look at the situation. It's like when someone, if I deal in coffins, when someone dies, there's business for me. It's true. So when there's an accident, you ask how many died? Oops, I hope they are I can recommend.
Yeah.
And I recommend them to my shop. Unfortunately, those are human beings doing that. That I thrive in the misfortunes of other people.
Right.
And like now, and unfortunately, like, let me give an example. Yesterday, it rained for a long time in Nairobi. If you were in the CBD, the taxis prices went up.
Yeah.
The border prices went up. Everything went up. I was caught in town.
Yeah.
Where I usually pay, I jump in border once in a while. And I usually pay 100.
Yeah.
I was paying 300 yesterday.
Right.
And you're still being rained on. And it's either you pay 300 or don't.
Yeah.
Now, the same applied to our situation now. During COVID, like you're saying, the guys were like, oxygen, for the first time you're paying for something you've been breathing for free.
Yeah.
And well, now it is in a container. The prices went up.
Right.
Getting to an ICU during COVID was drama. And then the worst part was the government gave counties money to build COVID centers. And some places, nothing was built.
Right.
And you're wondering, what happened to the money? And today, we have situations like floods.
Yes.
And there are people who are like, oh, you want us to get you out from there? Get into my boat.
Right. And so where is the sensitivity in all of this? I mean, okay, we get that you're in business and we know that's the laws of business. When there's demand, you increase price. But about, where is the sensitivity?
Now,
where is the sensitivity?
It tells you of the lack of humanness in some of us.
What we're talking about,
Yes. And that humanity, once it's crushed, you actually don't have a heart that responds to emotions and feelings and situations. You see situations and you're thinking of what's the most I can make out of this.
Right.
And for me, I think by the time we get to that point, we are dealing with a broken society that really needs help.
Yeah.
And a broken people who needs to be. I know prayer would work.
Yeah.
But there's a point where you need kiboko.
And that's a reverend telling you.
Because, honestly, because Shiko, I can't be coming into prayer and say, may the Lord help Shiko so that she can feel when people are crying.
Right.
Well, the truth is this.
Yeah.
It's like you can have an accident, Shiko, and people are falling down, the car is all over the place.
Right.
And guys are ransacking your pockets. You know, guys.
Which happens all the time, right? Yeah.
Do you want to tell me at that time I pray? No, I get a kiboko.
I like how real you are. Yeah.
Because that time you're not going to pray. Prayer won't work.
Right.
So we just need to get some degree of training and equipping and teaching people and helping people, but also just being principled enough to say, you can't do this.
You can't.
Because if you continue doing this, tomorrow it's you. I see you drowning and it's like, okay, you want me to, how much do you have?
Yeah.
If you don't want, it's okay.
You can't reach your pockets.
Let's see how long you can take before you breathe your last.
Right.
I am covering it live on my phone.
And there you are now. You're trending on TikTok because you're like, man dies in river while I don't know,
hoping to swim across. And people will be wondering, what was the person video recording?
Right.
Thinking?
And by the way, even in terms of this digital space, I like the fact that you said hyenas of
the battlefield.
Of the battlefield, because for those of us in this generation who have the tendency to want to be trending because of someone else's misfortune, that also goes out to you. What is going to be your choice when someone is in need? Is it your first priority to get onto TikTok and on social media, or is your first priority to help?
I always ask this question when I do talking to young people. There's a question I ask that I tell them, if you can get an answer to that, then you repeat the same question to every answer you give me. The question is, and then?
Yeah.
So if you're the first on TikTok, and then? You get paid, and then? How much money do you want? $1 million, and then?
Yeah.
But if I saved a life, and then you ask me, and then there is a human being who is alive.
Right.
And then the person will appreciate what I did. Now, it's now not me.
Yeah.
It's the person. And if the community we have today would answer that question, and then you'd actually find that there's joy in helping transform someone's life than in you being a celebrity by people liking whatever you posted.
Right.
And then,
yeah,
after you finish liking, what next?
People
Does that make you a greater person?
No.
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 It actually gives us an attitude of knowing who you really are.
Right.
And I'll avoid you like a plague.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are the ones now we need to walk around with the kiboko.
Exactly. But imagine if you know that I was drowning and John Mark reached out, jumped into the river and pulled me out. Man, that's a story that will not end today.
Yeah.
Your children will know about it. Your grandchildren will know about it. Some people might even... I was reading an article of a young man who did that, and they set up a trust fund. Some rich guys came in and said, we want to set up a trust fund on your name.
Wow.
You did this, please. These are the kind of people with a heart.
Yeah.
But then try to imagine someone setting up a trust fund because you are the first to take a picture and you TikToked about,
not going to happen.
It's good. No.
I just kind of like in the next 2 minutes, I really want to talk about how the world has really evolved. It kind of feels like things are not as safe as they were before, you know. In your times, if you think back to your childhood, you could walk around, you could play with your neighbors, you could do so much more.
Yes.
And it was because there was a sense of community.
Right.
Today, we just don't care.
No.
Like, do you even care who lives on the floor below you? Like whatever.
90% of the times, we don't know our neighbors. Number 2, we are even scared of our neighbors. And number 3, we don't want to know them. You live your life, I'll live mine.
Yeah.
But I grew up in the village.
Yeah.
In my time, when you left school, you're supposed to be home by a particular time. If a neighbor found you at the wrong time, you have to tell the neighbor who is not even related to you. They may not be a relative.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's a neighbor, that entitles them to be a relative. All right?
I know.
A guy is your cousin or your uncle because he played football with your dad.
So it doesn't matter.
School. So it doesn't matter. So he'll ask you, why are you still here now?
Right.
Like these days, you find that schools have closed. And at 8 p.m., you still see students hanging around town. Yeah. And you're wondering, you're supposed to be home.
Yeah.
Now, today you can't ask. In my days, someone will tell you, get into this, let me take you home and explain to your parents where I found you. Yeah. So you'd apologize and go. Now, that humanness, that humanity that we had then, that humanity that everybody had, that's why they say that a child is brought up in a village. Yeah. That village has died.
There is no village.
The village we have today, let me be honest with you, is TV, our phones, the house help, and the walls around your house.
Right.
In fact, the parents are outside. Yeah. The parents are outside. Right, They're not part of the village. Right. Because if you actually ask your parent, your children, who actually takes care of you, who's shaping who you are? Yeah. It is the TV, it is their phone, it is the house help, and the community, the estate, I call it the estate. Yeah, it's not a community. Someone tells you that, you know, I don't want my child growing in this place, I want my child to grow in this place. Then he asks, will you be present? He said, no, once the child is there, it's safe. Yeah, fine. So move me out of the picture. Yeah. And because of that, we've reached a point where it is impossible for someone even to be accountable for the behavior. Right. And if I see your child misbehaving, it's like, that's how the parent is. Don't you dare. Yeah. Don't even talk. Don't look at me. Don't look at my child. Who are you? You know, and you're wondering, really? I'm telling you, Rev. Oh my gosh. We're going to take a short commercial break. We did manage to tease this particular discussion on socials already, and so we want to thank, by the way, our show assistant Charlene. She actually managed to compile those for us. We'll be sampling those and throwing questions to Reverend John Mark. But even as we take this break, I hope you've already begun to get that thought process through. Okay, we're trying to give you a provocative conversation this morning by asking you, what are you doing? Are you your neighbor's keeper? And also we'll be trying to find out what the good book says, you know, what we've been instructed by our creator to do in times like this. At K24 TV across those platforms, we'll see you in just a sec.